We start with Mozambique. The southern African nation has been gripped by violence and unrest. The crisis emerged out of a disputed presidential election and is worsening with each passing day. Fears of a wider regional crisis are now growing. In the latest, Mozambique's army has joined a manhunt to find at least 6,000 prisoners who escaped from a jail in the capital, Maputo. The police had initially suggested that about 1,500 people had escaped, but reports say that the figure is 6,000 escaped prisoners. The prison break took place on Christmas Day. At least 33 people died during clashes with the police and more than a dozen were injured. Around 30 of the prisoners were reportedly convicted terrorists. They were part of an Islamist insurgency in the country's north, which has been ongoing for the past 7 years. Now, eyewitness videos have emerged of the mass prison break. They show large crowds gathering and running about the facility. Shouting could also be heard. Other videos show prisoners snatching weapons from the guards and freeing other detainees. Now, this mass prison break comes as fresh violence broke out in the country. Mozambique's top court validated the disputed October election results. The court's decision put the ruling Frelimo party's candidate, Daniel Chapo, at the winner's spot, with 65% of the votes. This extends Frelimo's 49-year-long reign in Mozambique. Opposition leader Venancio Mondlane's revised vote count is at over 24%, putting him in second place. However, Mondlane has called the vote a fraud and declared himself the true winner of the election. He is currently in self-imposed exile and he's mobilizing mass protests through social media. Earlier in a social media address, Mondlane said he would take oath as Mozambique's next president on January 15th. Over 250 people have been killed in post-poll violence in Mozambique, mostly by security forces who shot many of the protesters. The crisis has brought cities to standstill and has affected the country's mines, ports and borders. Experts fear that the chaos could affect neighboring countries as well. Amid this turmoil, the role of the Southern African Development Community, or the SADC, has come into the spotlight. It's a regional body made of 16 members. Reports suggest that some members of this organization, who are also Mozambique's neighbors, might have a different take on the situation. After Mozambique's constitutional court upheld the disputed poll results, the SADC chair, Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa, issued a statement. He said that the SADC urges both sides in Mozambique to abide by the court's decision. The statement did not explicitly mention the ongoing violence. A statement was also issued by the government of South Africa. It said that Pretoria was concerned with the ongoing violence. It has urged all parties to come to the negotiating table and sort out their differences. South Africa is the foreign nation that has faced the brunt of Mozambique's crisis. South Africa had temporarily shut its main border with Mozambique, causing a massive economic loss. Now, reports say that the South African petrochemical company, Sasol, has been affected. It has reduced natural gas production at its central processing facility in Mozambique. This is to ensure the safety of its staff and assets. South Africa fears an influx of people from Mozambique, especially the criminals who escaped from the Maputo prison. Pretoria is afraid that this could lead to law and order problems in South Africa. Meanwhile, Turkey has cancelled flights to Mozambique. The International Monetary Fund has downgraded the economic outlook for the country. Business disruptions have also raised investor concerns. How can Mozambique and the regional bodies ensure peace in the region? To discuss this further, we have Fredson Guileng. He's a Mozambican political analyst and he's joining us live from Johannesburg, South Africa. Hi, Mr. Guileng. Welcome to Firstpost.
Thank you very much for having me.
So let's jump straight to the questions then. The number of prisoners who escaped has now gone up. It was initially 1,500, now it's 6,000. How could this affect the situation in Mozambique, in Maputo itself?
Yeah, I think part of it, part of the implication that this might have in Mozambique has been also expressed by the Interior Minister himself when he said that as part of this group. This group is composed of some of very high level criminals, including rapists, terrorists, and so and so. So this might definitely increase the level of violence in the country. But I must also indicate that there are two narratives about these so-called escapes. Because one points to a deliberate action by the government, by the ruling Frelimo, to try to project a state of anarchy and to delegitimize, sorry, the political nature of this movement. And the official version is the one that points to the fact that these people are simple prisoners and escapees. So, I mean, no one has been able to verify in concrete what really happened because no investigation has been carried out yet.
Well, while the investigation unfolds in Mozambique, what about the neighboring countries? You're in South Africa. Pretoria is afraid of some of the prisoners making their way down to South Africa. How are they going to deal with this in South Africa?
I think South Africa and the other neighboring country of Mozambique, or possibly the SADC bloc, should have had a long time ago had a much proactive engagement with the Mozambican authorities, not wait for the conflict to have escalated to this level to now open their doors for dialogue, like the case of South Africa. I think SADC has a bloc, as a regional bloc, has been failing to have a more preemptive action when it comes to conflicts, failing to resolve the root causes of conflicts in the region, other than waiting for them to reach level as such. So obviously, South Africa is right to I mean to be scared of a possible increase in criminality in the country, because some of these people might want to jump the border, because if they are, as they've been portrayed to be, escapees, what they will do is to try to run away as far as possible from the Mozambican authorities, and obviously this might result in an increase of level of violence, not just in South Africa but in other neighboring countries.
Now, before this, you said that the SADC members, they should have worked together, engaged with the sides, but what we can see is that there are two different angles. South Africa wants the parties to come to the negotiating table. Zimbabwe says that they should accept the court results. Now, if the bloc itself is divided, how can they get together to try and bring diffuse tensions in Mozambique?
The difference in positions clearly reflect the difference in the nature of these two regimes. While in South Africa, we live in a democracy where there's freedom of speech, freedom of movement, and the electoral processes are transparent and they are fair. In Zimbabwe, the situation is not very different from what happens in Mozambique. So it is really not to expect. No one would expect President Mnangagwa from ZANU in Zimbabwe to come up with any other statement which would be different from what he said. He was also in power. He has been in power through illegitimate means, through fraudulent elections, and no one could expect anything different from Mnangagwa and the ZANU regime in Zimbabwe. But in South Africa, the situation is completely different. The ANC is a democratic organization. Elections in South Africa are free, fair, and transparent. So that's where the difference is. So now, how do you conciliate these two? It's going to be a little bit complicated because Zimbabwe is the chair of SADC. And what we have to wait is to see which position will prevail in the end.
All right. Well, that shows that there is still disagreement both within and outside in how to deal with Mozambique's situation. Thank you, Mr. Guilhem, for joining us today. We appreciate your input.
You're welcome. Thank you.